Okay, everybody, I think we'll go ahead and get things started and people will be able to join us as they come on then. Hi, my name is Jenna Nilo. I am the Director of Marketing and Outreach with Illinois Digital Educators Alliance. Thank you so much for joining us. We have been doing webinars Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So I hope you've been able to join us for some of the other ones that we've been doing. We also hold virtual office hours on both with coaches, if you're looking for some coaching concepts, inspiration, just to bounce some ideas off people, or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we also have virtual office hours with Apple, Google, regarding Apple, Google, and Microsoft, so depending on the day. So we're doing 3 things a day, offering professional development hours for each of those. So please take advantage of this opportunity to do that. So today we are going to be doing a webinar on e-learning for students with disabilities and how we can add accommodations to the general ed curriculum during this e-learning time. So we have Ruth with Johnston Human Learning Tools, who is going to be joining us, and I'm going to introduce her in just a second. But before I do that, just wanted to go over a few housekeeping items. So first and foremost, and I've kind of mentioned it already, please do me a favor and keep yourself muted and your camera off. That way Ruth will get the spotlight during the presentation. She won't have any background noise interruptions from anybody, and kind of go from there. As soon as I'm done, I'm going to do the same thing with myself. Also, we do welcome, however, interaction. So if you have any questions, if you need something clarified, if you want to elaborate on a topic, whatever the case may be, or if you have some great ideas that you want to share with everybody, because obviously everybody's doing this on a daily basis right now. So you all are already in the trenches and certainly can help one another. This is our opportunity to do that. So please go ahead and use that chat window. And we'll be monitoring the chat window. I will be monitoring it, but Ruth also has some colleagues with her who are specifically here to monitor that chat window and get your questions. So if they can't answer them, we will occasionally interrupt Ruth and ask her to answer them on the screen as well. So we will be doing that. So just like I said, keep yourself muted, keep your cameras off, go ahead and please interact with that chat window. People are already doing it, so that's awesome. And at the end of our session today, I'm going to come back on with a few announcements, whatever. But most importantly, I'm going to be putting that PDH link in the chat window. So stick around to the end, and I will put a Google form link in the window for you to fill out. And then I think there's like 1 or 2 back and forth fill out things. And that way ISB has proof of your attendance today, and we'll be able to issue you that 1 PDH credit hour. So beyond that, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to Ruth, and she is going to introduce herself and introduce today's topic. So thanks so much for being here today, Ruth.
You're welcome. Thanks. Hi, everyone. And I asked a little bit about where you're from and your different roles. And as you can see, we have a wide range. We have special educators, we have social workers, big school districts, small school districts. So I think we're all here to figure this out. I'm just thankful for groups like IDEA to really sponsor these types of learning sessions. And I'm glad that you're also getting credit while you're doing it. You should, because this is all, everyone's in the fast mode of learning right now. So so I'm here as I am the president of Johnston Incorporated, and I just want to, full disclosure, let you know that I will be sharing our tools, but more importantly, I'll talk about them in terms of categories or genres of tools. So just like a word processor, I could show Google Docs or I could show Microsoft Word, but the category is a word processor. And I think that's the most important piece for you to take away. We will share some Don Johnston specific pieces as well, but you can see we're really here to just support you and support all students who struggle. You'll notice that closed captioning is happening, and that's not through Zoom. That's actually a feature I turned on in Google. I'm in Google Slides, and so I just kind of came to the bottom of that and turned that feature on. It's fun to kind of watch and see. I think, initially it's a little distracting as you get used to it, but I think you can see while this was designed for students who are hearing impaired, and obviously very critical in an e-learning mode, It also works great for students with attention who, again, e-learning, you know, maybe mom turned on the vacuum in the background and now I can't hear, so I could quickly go back and look at the screen. Some of our students do have attention issues, so they could possibly go back and see some of the key things that were said. And we also know there's a lot of support from just a literacy. Hearing the words and seeing the words makes a big difference. It's not perfect, but it will catch things like my name, Ruth Ziolkowski. Oh, maybe not. So it kind of depends on your internet. So you can see my Oak House is the same as Ziolkowski, but in general, it's pretty amazing technology how well it does. So today we're going to talk about e-learning for students with disabilities. This has probably been one of the forefront issues for educators in general, on top of just how do we do e-learning, and mostly because there's a lot of issues with compliance, and really we have a lot of legal obligations to meet those students' needs. So that's why I think there's been a huge attention to this topic. And while we're all here and you're all digital educators, I think what we're going to find is a lot of this, you know, is forefront right now in an e-learning mode, but these are supports that students should be using all year long. And if they're not using these technology supports, guess what they're using? They're using us humans. And so that's why our teachers are working harder than they need to be. And we just really, this is a great opportunity to help our students become more independent. That's a little bit about who I am. Yes, I have a new little puppy. It's fun to have my kids home and working from home, but I also have my daughter has a puppy, I have a puppy, and my son has a dog. So we are a house full of people and dogs right now. That's my Twitter handle, and if you want to tweet, that would be fantastic. Many people in the special ed world will often say special education is a service, not a place. And it's really interesting because I think this e-learning has really pushed that to an extreme. And I think it helps us really realize where special education has become a place. And our goal is to move away from that. And we know down the line, our ultimate goal for every student is they are competent learners and they are college and career ready. And so I think as we look in this situation, and I know most people are just trying to keep their head above water, we still can look at those opportunities in this situation where we can really think about how to make our special ed services more remote, more 21st century, that type of thing. The way I organize this presentation is, you know, schools are a complex place and we're trying to help everybody right now. So we're going to talk, you know, about an administrator role, a teacher role, and a parent role. And obviously not every one of you plays every one of these roles, but I think even it will help you understand different people's places. And, you know, we all need to support each other throughout all of this. So let's start with the administrators. I think this is how most of your administrators feel. And while that looks kind of funny, you know, they are the life preserver people. And I think while they are toiling and working so hard to keep everyone afloat, I think they worry most about our most vulnerable children. And those are children with special needs, or children in homes where, you know, they're still worried if they're getting their meal every day, that type of thing. So I think this is, again, showing us some of the inequities in our society. And hopefully with that becoming more forefront will be more obvious to help fix some of those things. But just be patient with your administrators and know that they have a lot on their plate, and you know, they really take this personally. So a lot of them are just like, let's keep calm, and I don't know, let's just keep calm some more. So, but I feel like in this role, in this e-learning, the administrator still needs to create a vision, and really that vision needs to talk about right now, but also continue to talk about the future. You know, learning doesn't stop or change. We're probably still all working towards our district goals and really trying to work towards, again, learning for all students. An administrator also kind of needs to help with that kind of environment and infrastructure. So today we're just going to talk about those genres of tools and supports that we've seen students with disabilities need for the last 40 years. So while the technology changes, those kind of genres have stayed tried and true for all students, especially students with disabilities. Our administrators are trying to help us learn as fast as possible. And at the same time, they're trying to figure out, how do I provide this accountability in a time where everyone's just trying to stay alive and, you know, just trying to do their best. The one thing we know about any type of ed tech is that there's three main pieces to those to be successful. And one of them is making sure they're universally available. Second is making sure you have that professional development. But the third one is really that accountability, or at least a perceived accountability. So I think right now there's been no choice other than to use some of our ed tech. But in terms of some of our students with disabilities, you'll see where we really probably haven't been holding people as accountable, and that's why this is a great opportunity to raise awareness. This is a snapshot. You know, in special ed, we talk about technology as assistive technology, and, you know, for every student on an IEP plan, we should be considering assistive technology. For students with 504, you know, the focus is really around accommodations, of which assistive technology can be considered an accommodation. This is a recent snapshot of assistive technology published by Emily Bach in 2016. And what it's saying is, out of all students in special ed, these would be students on IEPs, only 7% are getting access to assistive technology. Now you can see right above that arrow is DB is deaf and blind, and VI is our visually impaired, and those are at 73% and 62%. So those are our top categories. Interestingly enough, you would think those would be like 99 or 100%. I can't imagine somebody who is blind not using technology. But, you know, obviously we still have a ways to go with those students. But as you move up, then you see students with moderate, severe intellectual disabilities, autism, and physical disabilities. Those are in the teens. But when we get up to the top, these are what I call the students with hidden disabilities, our learning disabilities, attention disabilities, and those are all well under 10%, especially our students with learning disabilities. And there's really, really good evidence that students with learning disabilities need these supports, yet there's a reason, you know, why we only are at 5.2%. And the reason is our teachers are doing too much, or our students are just not doing some of those tasks. So in this e-learning mode, it's a perfect time to move away from the traditional accommodations under reading. You know, a lot of your students with reading goals in their IEPs or on their 504 plans will have things like audiobook, or it will say read aloud on their IEP. And those are all very, you know, audiobooks can be very digital. We'll talk more about that. But there's limits on which books can be audio. I can't tell you how many times I hear teachers saying, oh, I'm recording a book, an audiobook for my children. You know, all of those traditional approaches require human intervention or teacher intervention. Same thing with writing. Oftentimes we'll just scribe, or I was just at my nephew's daughter's IEP, and we talked about places where she couldn't read or write, and the resource teacher said, well, she can come to my classroom and I'll do that for her and I'll support her. But what we really need in this e-learning and get our students college and career readiness is to really move them to those more technology-based accommodations. So moving from a teacher reading aloud to what's called a text reader, moving from audiobooks that are hand created to any kind of digital material, textbook, and even if it's in paper, I can snap a picture of it and make it digital. For writing accommodations, we're going to talk about word prediction, voice dictation, or speech recognition. These are those core genres that have stood the test of time. They've been around, you know, over 40 years ago. The technology changes, but the needs haven't. And so students are still needing these supports. There's other good reasons why we need to provide these assistive technologies for our students. Look at graduation rates, which is a focus of pretty much every state that I know of across the board. So if you look at your students on IEPs, those without assistive technology are graduating at a 79.6% rate versus those who use assistive technology or have assistive technology at a 99.8% rate. That's about a 20% gain. Look at post-secondary attendance. Only 40% of those without assistive technology are attending compared to 80% of those with. So that's double the amount. So we can see that getting students comfortable and using their assistive technology is a key part of college and career readiness. So as an administrator, what I think is a key practice and a key action is for you to think about those core genres of assistive technology. And this is a document that we can make available. Jenna, I'm sorry, I forgot to send you the links for this. I'll do that right when I'm done, but we'll send you a link so that you can have access to this Google Doc. You can take this right now in our version. We have our tools filled in for you, but you could, use this and put in whatever tools you're using. So we know for reading, your two top genres are going to be a text reader and a screen reader. Believe it, it's different. Even though they both read, a screen reader is really for the visually impaired and it reads everything on the screen, versus a text reader is for the majority of your students. When we get down to writing, again, it's word processing, word prediction, voice dictation, visual mapping, and graphic organizers. And it goes on. I added an e-learning just because there's a lot of people doing e-learning packets and sending home PDFs of material, so we'll get to that today. We're going to talk about testing and how to make that accessible. And one thing in today's world with e-learning is districts are really concerned about this whole legal requirement and showing compliance to IEPs and tracking. And one of the nice features about using these tools and supports is that they will be tracked automatically for your teachers. So as the students just start using them, they can be tracked automatically for them. You can see I put down ELL learners on this as well because they use a lot of the exact same supports as well. So with that, I'm going to pause just a minute and see if there's any questions.
Hey, Ruth. Mrs. Halverson asked, is a program like Reading A to Z considered an assisted technology for reading?
No, that's, I think, sitting in your supplemental reading and reading intervention. Keep in mind, accommodations are really an accessibility and assistive technology. The goal is get your students at grade level. And so Reading A to Z is actually taking students down and having them practice at their independent reading level. And the whole purpose of that is to help the students read more independently. So especially when it comes to reading, that's a really important piece. When we're in our reading instruction, and if my goal is decoding and fluency, that's not the time to be using my assistive technology and my accommodations. However, when I'm working on possibly comprehension, or I'm in my science class and my social studies class, my goal is access to the grade level curriculum, and that's where your assistive technology and accommodations come into play. So great, I'm glad you asked that for clarification. It's a very common misnomer.
Perfect. Then there was a question, and I'm just going to put this out here so everyone hears it. They asked if the doc that you were looking at will be shared to all. And I said, yes, I will be sending out an email by tomorrow morning with the recording of today's webinar, the chat file, and your presentation and any of the resources that you're going to share with them. So yes, everybody who's registered will get that email no later than tomorrow morning. And then regarding that same document, are the programs listed in the document from your company? And then are they paid or free?
So they are from our company. Right now they are free, and we'll talk about that at the end, and we can talk about pricing in general at the end if that's of interest to you. So
perfect. And with that, we are caught up.
Okay, great. So, and some of these genres will be available built into your platform. So like this closed captioning, what's really nice about closed captioning here is it's available in my Google Slides, but what happens when I'm in other places? And that's really one of those really key differences about assistive technology versus some of your built-in features. And that's why you really need to know what your students needs, which subject areas. Oftentimes, if a student is a struggling reader, for example, they don't just struggle when they're in their Google Docs. You know, they struggle in every one of their subject areas, science and social studies and home ec and that type of thing. And so you want to make sure that as you're looking at your students, that you're really thinking about the tasks that they have and what subject areas they're going to need to have those accommodations and supports. And then even within that, keep in mind, think about all the parts of the curriculum. Curriculum is a broad category for everything we do. And that includes not just reading our textbooks, but it includes any worksheets a teacher would have, any quizzes the teachers would have, any textbooks. And then in today's world, I should have put this in there, it could be something as simple as Google Classroom and some of the class comments. Oh, I did put that in there, Google Classroom. But think about that. Your teacher might be sending out in an e-learning mode an email or something through Google Classroom, and if the student can't read that, they would need help of their assistive technology to be able to read that. So today I'm going to kind of focus on kind of the cross-subject areas and these wide range of materials. And then again, like I mentioned earlier, data can be important from an IEP or 504 plan to show and have evidence that these accommodations and this assistive technology has been provided to your students. Normally, your teacher should be documenting that, which I don't think really happens that often just because who has time to document that? But this is a really nice way to do it without any extra work on anybody's part. Now, keep in mind, I would bet that you will have students who have reading accommodations who might not have any data. And that's, you know, that sounds a little scary, but that's a way we can start having those conversations where you can say, hey, this was made available in our district, yet you know, the student wasn't using it. So then we need to problem solve. Is it a lack of training? Is it a social emotional issue where they might be embarrassed that their peers aren't using it? And that type of thing. So really keep that in mind and be ready for those conversations. But they're really important conversations. If that accommodation is not going to be used, it should be pulled out of those IEP plans and 504 plans. So this is a great way to really work on your documentation and know that. Just a quick side note too, on the social emotional side, we do make a lot of these tools available, and that's what's nice about the built-in, but also tools like us, you'll see that we've added a lot of features for all students because we firmly believe in what we call universal design for learning. And if we really create an environment with all the supports for all our students, then certain students don't have to feel singled out. And so like one of my favorite teachers, I was in her classroom, says, all right, everyone, put your headphones in. It's time to read. Some of you will listen to the text and others of you just need it quiet. And those are very equalizing types of approaches to address all our learners and not make it like, oh, the kids with the headphones in are the ones who must be the struggling readers. So let's, you know, all know that those kids are struggling readers. We want to really try to protect those students as much as possible. So today I'm going to show you two genres, two tools that hit a lot of those genres. I'm going to show you Snap and Read, which is going to hit that genre of what we call a text reader. It's going to show, we're going to show you how you can read anything in your curriculum. And we're going to talk about supporting standards and data. I'm going to do just like my top 4 or 5 features. So we're not going to be able to show you everything in these tools. But I think the goal is to give you a taste. And if you want to learn more about either our specific tools or about that genre, we can give you lots of resources for that. And then we're going to show you Co-Writer, which fits into the genres of word prediction and voice recognition or speech recognition or voice dictation. There's about 3 different ways people call that category. There's also word translation in Co-Writer as well. So it kind of hits 3 genres of, again, word prediction, voice dictation, and word translation. And with that, let me jump out for a minute and go to my browser and give you a quick demo of these tools. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm in I'm in a website. Now, this could be an e-learning book. I'm going to show you a PDF book in a little bit, but this could be anything. So this could be something the student chose or required homework. This could be my Google Classroom, anything. I'm going to come in here, make sure Snap and Read is on. You'll see when I turn it on, I get a nice little menu here. We try to be very inconspicuous, so it's available, but not so obvious that everyone needs to know. You'll also see our toolbar is super simple. We do a lot with this, and again, I'm only going to show you the top 3 or 4 features, but please know I could probably spend a half an hour showing the depth of this tool, but I think that says a lot about who we are as a company and how we make things simple. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just kind of annoyed with all these this extra stuff on my website, so I'm going to quickly remove some distractions off my website. And that's kind of nice, and now I can really focus. And the first thing, and this is that genre, that main genre of what we call text-to-speech or a text reader, is I can just click my speaker and I can click anywhere and start to read.
Marianne Haberlein of the Department of Evolutionary Biology and Experimental Studies at the University of Zurich.
And I'm going to actually jump back to the title.
Trick or treat, conniving behavior discovered in dogs.
So obviously I could just click anywhere to start reading, click to stop. Now the reason why this is important, and especially important in an e-learning world, is I have a daughter who struggles with reading and attention, and she would have read this as conniving. She would not have really paid attention. She'd be like, conniving, I've never heard of that word, but there's lots of words she hasn't heard of because she's not a great reader. And so by her hearing that word later, if the teacher is talking about the word conniving, she's going to say like, oh, I have seen that word and heard it. But if she had just read it as conniving, she never would have really made that connection. And that happens to a lot of our struggling readers. So just as simply as clicking and reading, I'm not going to get into this, but this is for any text, like if I took a picture of it and it's not accessible, this is going to make that accessible to us. My next favorite feature beyond the genre of a text reader, now we're moving beyond that a little bit, and we're going to move into just, if we think about students who struggle with reading, oftentimes it's vocabulary. So the word conniving, I might not understand, or things like, here's conniving, I think there's the word deception somewhere in here, that again, I might not know what that is. So with a click of a button, I'm going to click on that, and you can see the word notice became, if I click on it, saw, heard, or became aware of. Conniving is the same as planning something bad. And so this is a little, we call this our dynamic text level. Somebody asked earlier about reading A to Z, which gives you all those leveled reading passages. The difference between what we're doing and a leveled reader is that we want the students to have access to those really rich, big words, but we don't, and we're just kind of scaffolding them up. So we want them to see the word conniving, and we believe that if they understand conniving is the same as planning something bad, they can have access to that, and it's, again, it's kind of like a cognitive scaffold. You just saw I accidentally clicked, we do have a picture dictionary that shows up, but again, I promised to only show you the top 3 or 4 features. So we're going to keep moving along. If I had said I was a second language learner, which let me do that really fast, I'm going to go into my options. I'm going to say I'm an Arabic learner. Now I'm going to go back, close that off. I am going to go back to my remove distractions. You can see I have a new feature, which is my translation, which we're really going to just use Google Translate. But again, we kind of supercharge it because it can be read aloud. I love showing Arabic because they actually read from right to left instead of left to right.
In the study,
so again, I can come in here and
so
if anyone reads Arabic, you'll know what that was all saying, but I can have it read aloud. The other thing is when I do my dynamic text leveler, conniving turns into planning something bad, and then that's the Arabic translation of it. So it's a really nice way to support our students with disabilities, but our second language learners. And another quick feature I want to show that really talks about why this is nice, universally designed, but also supports our students with special needs, is that we have a note taking. And so remember that category of graphic organizers. So we do have a whole list of different outline templates that have good evidence base to that. So I saw there are several co-teachers on our webinar today. You can use some of these as part of your specially designed instruction. For right now, I'm just going to show how to use it as a note taker. So I can say dogs trick humans. And now I'm going to need evidence to support that. So I'm just going to come in here and grab this study, use my electronic note taker highlighter. And highlight this text, and poof, there it is. I can indent this over, and now I not only have my citation, but I have my evidence, but I also have a citation to go with that. If I wanted to bring this information into a Google Doc, you can see Snap and Read's just gonna follow us over. For a lot of our struggling readers and writers, they struggle with copying and rewriting. For example, so I can then quickly take this and create my document, and at the end, if I wanted to cite my sources, boom, shakalaka, there it is. Super simple, super fast, supporting all learners in gathering evidence, but definitely supporting students who struggle with reading and writing. With that, I'm going to show you one other really important feature of Snap and Read that really comes into play in e-learning, and that is some of our PDF documents. So I'm going to go in and grab 2 quick PDFs just to kind of show you the range of students we can use this for. So something as simple as, here's just could be a worksheet. Snap and Read comes with a built-in annotator. And so what it's doing right now is converting my PDF into a Snap and Read format. And so what you get with Snap and Read is a PDF annotator for all your students and all your teachers. Well, for all your teachers for sure, and then students depends on how you license the tool from us. But I can come in here, and if I just want to quickly draw lines, I can do that. I can draw my king, and I can draw my trade, and then I could obviously save it and save it up to my Google Drive, share it with my teacher, that type of thing. I'm not going to take time to do that. I could also come in to something a little bit more complicated, and let's go to a PDF that was created this is actually a college or a high school textbook. A lot of our classes are doing what's called close reading, or again, in this particular textbook, it's actually got a note-taking section. So obviously I could have it read for me again, just repeating that.
Sales cytologists recognize 2 basic types of cells. Figure 4.1. Their differences have been tabulated.
Okay, so I can do that. But this also had like a little note-taking field. So I can come in here and again, add to my annotator, and I can say, take notes here. This is cell components. And maybe in here, this is a nice little graphic organizer. Maybe I really want to highlight some personal things so I can really remember the differences between these 2 things. Again, I can save this, email it to myself, or save it to my Google Drive. So you can see the wide range. Think of graphic organizers, quizzes, handouts, all of that. Close reading is a nice way to use Snap and Read to support your students with PDFs. All right, so that covers the genres of a text reader and even graphic organizers. It covers dictionaries as well, which is again another kind of common accommodation. But let's move over to writing, because we know students who write also really struggle. And I'm going to bring up a tried and true product. It's called CoWriter. And many people know of CoWriter. It's really the industry standard for word prediction. But what people don't realize is we've added speech recognition and word translation. So I'm going to show you CoWriter with some actual student writing sample so you can see. I'm going to type it just like the student would. So you can see the power of co-writer. So this first writing is obviously a younger writer. You can see the word can't doesn't have its apostrophe. And this is I can't wait. Wait is misspelled to go trick-or-treating. And trick-or-treating is interesting because you can see the students really a beginning speller sounding things out like trick-or-treating, okay? So I'm just gonna, co-writer, when I turn it on, this blue box will usually, you can change your colors, it usually follows alongside. I just stuck it to the side so you can see what I'm writing. So I'm gonna type the letter I, and I'm gonna keep typing. I'm gonna type the letter C, and you can see can't is already predicted.
Can't.
If I'm
Could.
not sure what these word choices are, I can highlight over them. I'm going to choose the word can't.
Can't.
Now, it does pre-predict for some of our students. That saves them keystrokes. It could help them just be a faster writer. But the student knows what they want to say, and they're going to type wait. And so they would have typed it W-E-A-T. But you can see I can instantly correct myself because obviously it's telling me wait is W-A-I-T.
Wait.
We also are unique in that we have a phrase prediction. So you can see, and this is a lot of our second language learners often miss those little articles. So
Way
there's
to.
wait and wait to. So I'm going to choose that.
Way to.
I'm just going to type the word go.
Go.
And now let's write trick-or-treating the way this student did. C-H-R-I-C. And boom, drop the mic.
Trick or treating.
There it is.
Trick or treating.
And when I hit my period.
I can't wait to go trick or treating.
So really helping our students grammatically create their sentence with spelling at a more, for our students who are really beginning spellers to really help them out. But also even hearing that sentence at the end is really helping our students self-monitor. If I had more time, I'd show you a couple other, I'm going to show you one other sample, but you can see like this is even a 4th grader with dyslexia, or I don't know the age level, but look at how they're spelling words like spaghetti and that type of thing. Co-writer would really rock it for those kids. But let's also go back to cell biology and think about our students at, they struggle even in high school writing about prokaryote, I can't even say the type of cells, eukaryotic cells and prokaryote, whatever. Anyway, so let me go
William
in
Shakespeare.
and I'm going to get a cell biology textbook.
Cell biology.
So you can see co-writer has what we call topic dictionaries. I can have anything from like
American Revolutionary War.
The Revolutionary War till the Civil War for science, or social studies for science. We're going to do biology. It could be, if I'm studying Harry Potter in our ELA class, I can have that. But for today, we're just going to turn on a cell biology topic dictionary. So with that,
Volcano Anacrodato on my site.
Sorry, I got to refresh my website to bring up my co-writer window just so I can get to the bottom of it and go back to my topic dictionary. So let's start writing, and I want to write about, remember there's these 2 types of cells, and oftentimes teachers are asking to compare and contrast it. So if I want to say prokaryotic cells are unicellular, so I'm going to start with P-R-O, care, and if I did it with a care, biotic. All right, maybe it didn't turn on the topic. Oh, there it was down below. Oops, there we go. Let's get our topic dictionary back on. All right, there we go. Prokaryotic.
Prokaryotic.
Nope, that's not it. Sorry, one more time. Here. There it is, number 5.
Prokaryotic.
Cells. Now, if I spelled cells like S-E-L-L, like I was going to sell you something, because again, it knows the topic.
Cells.
You can see cells and cellular is going to be there.
Cells.
And I want the word R. See how it pre-predicted the word R?
R.
And that's an interesting one because it's a plural subject and it was 2 words that were plural. That's why I pre-predicted R instead of is. And now we want unicellular. So unicell, and there it is right at the top, unicellular.
Unicellular. Prokaryotic cells are unicellular.
Unicellular. So again, what we talk about is co-writer helps our kids be fearless spellers so they don't feel like they really need to, they can bring whatever spelling skills they have to that. Now, this is also speech recognition, so I could type that, but this is where like speech recognition comes into play because I can't say prokaryotic very well. So again, that's where word prediction comes in. But what I want to do, I'm just going to go off topic and show you, most people understand voice dictation. One thing unique about Co-Writer is that we can translate as you go. So I can, first of all, use my voice to translate, and I apologize for my simple Spanish. Mi casa es blanco. Pretty good. So I can talk in Spanish, or if I was using word prediction, I could say my. And if I spelled house in Spanish, you can see how number 6 is
house.
A translated version of casa.
House.
My house is, and again, if I did blanco, and again, it can translate it that way.
White.
So you can see why Co-Writer is not only word prediction, it's speech dictation and word translation. And with that, it looks like we had some questions. I'm going to open it back up to questions. Anything on these two?
You know what, I'm going to read one out loud that came to me privately just now. So Michelle said, how would you suggest introducing these two programs electronically to students if we have never used them before?
You are so good. Let's work on that. That's going to come into the role of the teacher. So, so I'll get to that. Great idea. Great question. Any other questions you want me to answer quick?
Ruth, this is Amy. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, how are you? You're
Hi.
doing.
This is Amy with us.
Hey, everybody. I work in Illinois with Johnston, and I've been answering some questions, and I just wanted to mention, because people have asked, although Snap and Read and Co-Writer are separate extensions, yes, people do use them together. And I did mention our support called Coalition, which is a group of the human learning tools. It's a suite, and it's 5 different tools. And I did put that in the chat window because people were kind of asking about separate, together, and all that kind of thing. So I wanted to know, we were also answering questions about Microsoft, and that's about it. So everybody seems to be following along very well.
Awesome. Good, good, good.
Oh, wait,
So,
I'm sorry, there's one more. Do you think there should be a minimum grade level for this? That one just came through.
Question. You know, for writing, I see students using Co-Writer as early as kindergarten because the students can self-correct. A lot of people just call it the big word box. I think the earlier we start using some of these and the students start being able to self-correct their own spelling, you know, once you want to move away from inventive spelling, I think that's when you would start with Co-Writer. In terms of text-to-speech, I mean, think about it. We read harder materials to our kids before they can even read independently. So I think you can use a text reader at any time. What you'll want to do is make sure that you're using materials that are, you know, higher level than their independent reading level. So I hope that answers your question. So from an administrator, we set a vision. We talked about genres of assistive technology. You already started getting into how do we start training? So I'm gonna leave that for the teacher's role. But I think, again, having those high expectations and just knowing that while in an e-learning world, we really need these supports, but these will last beyond e-learning. These are tools and supports that students have needed, like I said, for the last 40 years since the field of assistive technology has been around, so it's not going to go away. So let's talk about supports for teachers and instructional assistants. And you guys are really taking the brunt of this and really thinking about that. And so what we really want to do is, I just want to also differentiate here, and this kind of already came up. We're really talking about accommodations and assistive technology. I showed you how Snap and Read has some supports for specially designed instruction. But in general, you know, as a teacher, you're still responsible to deliver that specially designed instruction, to deliver the intervention. And oftentimes people are like, well, should we do our intervention first, or does this take away from our intervention? And they're very different things, and the issue is you need them both. You know, so we need to help our students independently grow their skills, but at the same time, we need to give them their highest expectation, access to grade level curriculum. And so today we're really focused on the accommodations and assistive technology. It doesn't mean you wouldn't do intervention. So based on that, let's talk about as a teacher or an instructional assistant, your main job. I think in a lot of ways you guys have been working really, really hard. So I'm going to try to shift your practices into these three things. One is developing usage and routines. Second is helping your students advocate for what they need and know who they are in that kind of personalized learning environment. And then empowering your students to really be the leaders and learn the tools. Why do we need to do this, especially for students with learning disabilities? This is a 20-year longitudinal study, and these are the key practices that are successful students who have successfully, you know, college and career readiness. And I think if you look at these, this isn't, you know, I would say this would be for every student, not just students with learning disabilities, but having a daughter with a learning disability, she clearly has to have her goals set. She clearly has to advocate and be proactive. She just recently had to do all of that in her own e-learning as they were trying to proctor a test. And in this Zoom learning, she was like, I can't have all these people's faces. I'll be so distracted. So again, knowing your learning style and being aware and being able to persevere and really coach and advocate for yourself is going to be key. So teachers, I'm going to tell you, your main job is really setting up routines. And so part of this in this e-learning world is really helping your students think about, and your parents think about, what is the activity, what is the learning task, and what supports can I use? And this is where it gets into, if it's a reading task or even if it's science, and if it has to do with reading, we have to start teaching our students to start thinking about, well, what are the accommodations I'm going to use? I love this little planning tool because what it can do is help you not only plan, but then reflect. So after that, you know, what did I use? How did I need help? What are my ideas for the future? So again, that's a really appropriate thing for special educators to do with your students in this e-learning. And I think oftentimes we don't have the time to do this, and so we just do it for our students. And I think because we're not as involved and we can't be there for every minute of the day, it's really forcing us to take time to do that. So, but you can see this is a lifelong support. So you can see the student could look something like that. Not everything the student will use an accommodation, but oftentimes they will. And so the student can document that. This could also be your documentation for providing some of those services. So the fun question though that was asked is, well, how do I introduce this to the students? And you know, this is all new to them. And so we have something called the Learning Academy. And let me just jump out to show you that. And I can show you where that is, but we really are so focused on having students be more independent and take the lead in this, that we created a whole Learning Academy for them. And so I'm just gonna show you really fast, but you can see if you go to our Learning Academy, the students can come in here, click on that, click on the tool that they want, click on your platform, and all of a sudden we're going to have students teaching other students. So it's a really nice way. They'll get a certificate when they're done, they can practice. But what it really does is puts your students in the lead, and that's really a big shift, is letting your students take the lead. And you can do this together. So you could do this via Zoom meeting and do a feature at a time, or do the Learning Academy for the beginning one as a whole group, and then kids could practice. You could ask, I think I have this, you could ask a few students to learn it and teach other students. You can have each student pick a tool and teach it. But the ultimate goal is really getting your students to be what we call textperts. Especially your students with special needs. They would rather be known as a textbook learner than a struggling reader. And so all students need to learn how to use technology. And so if you empower them to start learning these tools and be more independent, they're going to start seeing themselves in a much different light. So that's our main approach to learning. Obviously, teachers, you can go through that and learn that on your own, but we are finding, you'd be surprised, the kids pick it up and really, really fast. And they don't have to use the entire tool to be successful. Even if they're using just one feature, you can start with a feature a week or a feature a month, and that's still going to be huge success and really empowering for your student. And last but not least, we kind of mentioned this, but it's important that you monitor their data. And this is something in an e-learning environment you can do from afar. So with Snap and Read, we do some very simple data collection. You can see I'm looking at Amy's data. You can tell in our promo stuff, we just have fake data. And so we have our staff in there. But Amy's been using Snap and Read since February of 2016 till now. I can change my time zone so I can see how well she did this week. She's read over 1 million words, so we can use that to celebrate. You know, about 100,000 words is a chapter book, so a lot of our kids don't believe that they can read very much, but when they hit those 100,000 marks, we can celebrate that. And down below, you'll see the readability level. We do kind of track the readability of what students are reading. We don't track what they're reading. We feel like that's kind of more of a privacy issue. But we can tell you the general readability of what they're reading, and I cut this off, but it will say a grade level below. But this will tell you the darker blue says the grade level. This is a 7th grade. So you can see if Amy's a middle schooler, we're going to feel pretty good about her level of reading. If she's a high schooler, we might feel like we need to increase that rigor. If she's an elementary student, and we see this could be a struggling reader who's an elementary student, because with Snap and Read and with reading accommodations, we can often get them to comprehend at much higher levels. We do see students who look like this. So again, as a teacher, your role is to develop those routines and habits, really promote student advocacy, really empower your students to learn those tools using your data walks, and then, you know, at some level, some people are actually adjusting their IEP goals or looking forward to them. So you can see, and during this time, are these supports that students will use. So as you get to future IEP goals or 504 goals, you can use this data in making those decisions. Like, hey, the tool was available. Did they use it or not? All right. I have one last section for parents. I'm going to just zoom through this because this is pretty fast and it looks like there's more questions. So in terms of our parents, you know, I know most of you have seen this, but our poor parents who are trying to work at home and also support e-learning, we know it's quite hard. For your parents, we want them to know what is available. Again, they too need to have these routines. And they need, you know, what we need to do is support them in expectations and managing emotions and behavior. What I would say is these tools help your students be more independent. And so they really need that time, and they need our students to be independent learners. So our kids are really good at tricking us to do things for them. Just think about your child. If any of you have been parents, like they'll ask you to tie your shoes forever. And until you really get to the point of, I need you to do this yourself, that's what we're going to need to do. And we just need to encourage our parents, like, hey, if your child says, hey, read this to me, you can say, well, let me show you this tool. Or what about Snap and Read? I think there's a tool that your teacher gave you that will read it to you. Or I don't understand. Well, is it a word you don't understand? I think Snap and Read has a tool that you could use. So again, what we really want to do is help our parents take those things that their kids are asking for, but really reinforce those routines and trying to use their technology and being more independent. Again, like I said, your parents need breaks. So even if they're not using these tools instructionally, just to be able to have some free reading time where they can access anything on the web and have it read to them. They can get those high interest articles. They could use something called like Bookshare or Learning Ally and have access to that. And again, really reinforcing that, hey, I want you to use your technology so that you can be more independent. So let me pause at that, and we can take final questions, and then we can tell you where to get access to these resources in this time period. So what questions are out there?
Hey, Ruth, it's Amy. It looks like I was answering as we went through. I'm just taking a look here. Hold on. Yeah, you know what? There haven't been questions since somebody asked about the reading level. I do know that some people were having an issue with seeing your screen, and I think that Jen is trying to explain to them how to see the view options at the top of the screen. So a couple of people are having that issue. This might be the time to talk about, somebody's asking about price range and somebody else is asking about, are you saying that these are free now during COVID-19?
Yep. So, and again, we'll give you this link, but if you go to the Don Johnston website and you look at our e-learning, we are providing these tools for free. We know just people need to get going and going fast, and we don't want a teacher to have to wait to get a purchase order or anything. So it's a great opportunity to try. And as Amy said, we have many different tools. I only showed you 2 of them, but we have 5 different supports. And again, that will help you. And so if you want to learn more about those, I suggest, you know, that you let Amy know in the chat window if you'd like to set up a time for that. In general, you know, just to give you an idea of cost, the most you would pay for Snap and Read so anybody in a whole building would have access to that, is $750 a year. So that means everybody in that school has a PDF annotator, they have a text reader, they have that dynamic text leveling. So you can see it's like the cost of 2 Chromebooks, which is a pretty low cost, and that's the most you would pay. And so a lot of it just depends on how many tools and which tools and how long and that type of thing. So, but, you know, so I think it's important that you know that they're not out of reach and that they're very cost effective. You know, we know that that's a lot less expensive than having somebody sit there and proctor to you all the time. And again, this is really about college and career readiness. So it's really about helping your student be independent. And so if a student can work more independently and be included in more of their classes without as much support, that's our ultimate goal. So all those other on the same web page, we have those parent guides. We have lots of little 5-minute videos, other supports for special educators. We'll have a webinar in 2 more days at Don Johnston. So we're also providing a lot of webinars. And that one is going to be about including specially designed instruction with assistive technology. So again, there's a lot of people with special educator backgrounds. You might want to look at that just for some of the webinars we have coming up. So any other questions?
Yeah. Thank you, Ruth. A couple of things. People are asking how long they are free, and I've gotten this question a lot because I'm working with a lot of districts in Illinois, and I'll let you answer that question, Ruth.
So right now we know they're free till the end of the school year. I think we're learning to see what's going to happen with summer school and if that's going to be a need, but we're really looking at that as an option too. Again, we know that people are just moving a mile a minute, so we'll make that decision shortly, but definitely till the end of the school year, so through the end of June. And if summer school is important to you, let us know. That would be important in helping us make that decision, whether we need to keep that going. So.
And then 2 things you had me throw in a couple of links there. One is to our Learning Tools website. The other one says Administrator e-learning genres of assistive technology. You wanted me to put that in there, which I did.
And I think Jenna's going to send, I didn't realize that too. So Jenna will send all of this to you all. So don't feel like you have to get that. Sorry.
Okay. No, sorry. And then also somebody asked about, are there supports for parents in Arabic? And I wanted to explain that. We can, you can go ahead and use Snap and Read to translate into Arabic, but we don't have anything available in other languages right now as far as supports. Correct, Ruth?
Yeah, so Snap and Read will translate like a document or a website into those languages. Keep in mind, we're still using Google Translate, so it's still more of a word-for-word translation. So don't use it for legal documents, please. But really it's just there to help support kind of like more words and phrases is really our intention for that. And, you know, again, getting people to English as their first, you know, as a second language, so.
Okay, and then the name of the last webinar we just shared, I think that Jen is gonna answer.
Yep, that's all that. So I want to give Jenna her time, and Jenna, I'll move the slides as you need me to, but I just wanted to say thank you all for being here. I know that there's a lot of pressure on all of you. We really appreciate you and know that you're doing amazing work. So, and with that, Jenna.
Great. Okay, so I know we're just past the hour, so I'm putting in the chat window right now for those of you who maybe have to go to another one, your link for your PDH for today. So if you're looking for that hour PDH for attending today, please go ahead and use that bit.ly. It will be available till midnight tonight, so make sure you get to that today. And like I said, fill out the paperwork, the form, and we'll get that to you so that we have the evidence of attendance for ISB. Just real quick, again, because since we're past the hour, 2 more webinars that we're running this week. So tomorrow and Thursday, we have Book Creator. So if you could go back one. Sorry.
Hold on. There we go.
There we go. So if you're interested in using the Book Creator app, Book Creator is another partner of ours, which is they have some awesome opportunities. Take advantage of those webinars tomorrow and Thursday, both at noon. And then next week, we are doing a webinar on SEL. So Strut has this awesome tool, this online tool that will help with SEL. And so that one is next Tuesday, again at noon. And finally, if you're looking for information on anything that IDEA is putting out on our home learning, our e-learning opportunities, we have so many resources. We're trying to keep it not overwhelming because we know that you guys are getting overwhelmed with stuff. So we've really limited and hand selected what we've put on our website. We also have this great calendar that we're putting out every Monday, and it gives you a week's of activities. So it'll give you one SEL activity and then the 4 C's. So you could do 1 activity a day, assign those with your students. They're online, they're offline. We're trying to keep it really accessible to everybody. So definitely check that out. Again, we post that every Monday. Otherwise, again, the link for PDH is in the chat window. Go ahead and fill that out. Ruth, Amy, thank you so much for your assistance today and the wealth of information. People were picking stuff up left and right, so this was phenomenal, and thank you so much. We appreciate it. Great resources.
Everyone, go be awesome. You are awesome already, so keep being awesome. Thanks.
We'll send that email out to everybody by tomorrow morning with all the resources, and we'll hang around for 1 or 2 more questions if you guys have anything. Somebody's looking for the link. I'm going to put that back in there for the PDHs, and you guys are good to go. So thanks so much, everybody.
Thanks, Jenna, for hosting this.
Thank you. I don't think you took a breath, man.
I know.
Holy cow. And I think you could have kept going. I know you could have.
Oh, no. I've done this before, but I really wanted to add the PDF in. And so I'm like, oh, I gotta, so then I probably do talk too fast. So sorry.
No, not too fast. You could just tell that you had so much information. Justin, your IEIN number is your educator number for the state of Illinois. So if you don't know it, and you should, not you should, but if you don't know it, if you go to that link, you should be able to get it from there. I think you got to fill out some stuff for that. Ruth, Michelle just asked me, does the administrator need to sign up for the account, or can the individual teacher do this?
The individual teacher can sign up. We do have like practitioner, and then we do have like districts. So either way, and practitioner, if that's the fastest to get going, go for that. And then we can always update you too. So.
I hate when Zoom automatically puts you to somebody privately to message.
I know, and then you're like, oops.
I know, that's, yeah. Oh, Michelle asked me that before as well. I apologize, Michelle.
I should have had somebody help me with my Spanish. Thank you, Jessica.
I think with that, we're good. And I know I've kept you past 1, so.
I know, that's I will send you the links to the Google slide deck. And do you want it as a Google slide deck link or a PDF? What works best for you?
Want to do, if you want to do it as a Google slide share, then they can manipulate it if they want to on their end afterwards. You know, I would just make it a share one so that, you know, or a force a copy one.
Okay. Okay, we'll do that. I do it from a demo account too, so perfect. All right, thank you. Thanks for hosting, Jenna. Yep, I can stand it.
I appreciate it. I'm just answering one last